So these are the two pellets I will be shooting today, the Daisy 22 caliber and the H&N Silver Point. Now, what I have found online, as far as there's no weight listed on the tin for the Daisy. Back in the day, did send some information that he has and opinions on each pellet. And he said that his scale shows the Daisy pellets to weigh 15.4 grain. Online, everything I can find as far as a Daisy pointed pellet and its weight in 22 caliber says 15.27 grains. So that's extremely close. Basically 15.3. Back in the day gets 15.4. That's this pellet. It does look very nice, very uniform, very smooth. No rough burrs or edges. The H&N ones are a bit longer. They obviously are a bit heavier. As you can see on the tin, it's listed as 17.13 grain. So I will be shooting these. I'm only going to be doing one shot with 40 pumps. I will be shooting at a spinning target as far as getting an idea of accuracy for the pellet, and then I will get a velocity and a power number based on the pellet weight and the velocity that they're shooting at with 40 pumps. Okay, let's get into it. As far as the target goes, I'm going to be using, I've had this and have not used it. This Crosman Zombie spinning target. I will be shooting at the smaller one in the middle, and it looks like it's about the same size as the black area of the paper target that I have just behind it. So we'll see what each of these pellets can do, and hopefully they are shot on target and I do my part as far as being able to hit where I'm aiming. So the first pellet I will be shooting is the Daisy 22 caliber. I just did 40 pumps on my 2289 and did want to note that it loaded very easily. So it's a very easy loading pellet for this particular gun. And we'll see what kind of velocity number we get. And hopefully I can nail the zombie downrange. 706. 706 with that Daisy. 15 point, I'm going to say 15.4 grain. We'll go with the weight that back in the day got off of his scale. It did seem to nail the target. Unfortunately, I got a deflection, but as you can see, I was off to the right, pulled it, but did hit the target, spun it, and sent the pellet somewhere down here in my basement. So we'll try that H&N one next. So this particular time, I've got the H&N Silver Point pellet loaded, 40 pumps. It did load, I was surprised, especially with the extended bolt that I have on my 2289, and as long as these pellets are, it did load very easily. It dropped right into place. And we'll see again what kind of velocity number we get with these. Hopefully I can nail the small zombie target again as I did with the Daisy, and then we'll get some power numbers for both, okay? So unfortunately that did lead to an error reading. I am going to do it again and definitely get a velocity reading for this 40 pumps and those H&N Silver Points. It did smack the target very hard. It's a big impact pellet, I can say that. But again, most likely, although it did rip the lower portion of the zombie sticker completely off of the target. As far as paint being chipped and removed, that seems to be off to the right again. That's probably because I have the hammer spring adjuster adjusted in pretty far, going for power, and it's making the trigger a little bit harder to pull, which would make sense as far as me pulling my shots. So, but it did nail the target extremely hard. Both of them actually did, the Daisy and the Silver Point. The Silver Point seemed to be noticeably larger impact based on the sound of the smack that it gave. Unfortunately, because I'm shooting at a metal target and I'm not shooting into paper, and like I said, I could hear fragments of the pellet deflecting and landing somewhere in my basement. I'm not going to have a good idea of expansion. But again, as far as the audible sound that they both gave, they do seem to be both hard-hitting pellets. And the H&N really gave a noticeable loud smack to that target. So I'm going to try to get a velocity number off of that, and have to do some more pumping up to 40. That's one of, again, I said, it's really frustrating getting error readings under certain conditions. High-powered PCPs that use lots of air for each shot, and pumping 40 times and then only getting an error reading, that's pretty frustrating. But I'm going to do my best to get one and figure out some power numbers. Did get a velocity 666 on the H&N Silver Point, 40 pumps. So I can get a power number off of that. The other thing I did was I ditched the zombie target and went with that catalog that I've done other expansion videos on for pellets. So I'll try to find that pellet, dig it out, and we'll see what that looks like. So I did manage to dig that H&N Silver Point pellet out of the catalog I shot into. As you can see, it gave some very nice expansion. Not quite as much expansion as I would say either the Crosman Premiers gave me or the Excite pellets gave me. But because, as you can see on the tin, it's got that ridge right in the middle. The pointed head of the pellet isn't directly a part of where the upper portion of the skirt would be. It's got that extra ridge of material, which is probably firming up the head of the pellet, probably made specifically not to expand as much as some other pellets, to give more penetration, but it certainly is a very decent amount of expansion. If I could try to get it turned on its side, and you can see pretty good squashing of the head of the pellet. The skirt is pretty much intact, but very good penetration within the catalog, very good expansion. I'm sure this is meant to be a hunting pellet and probably made more for penetration. So come back with those velocities combined with the pellet weights and get some power numbers and finish this video up. So having crunched the numbers as far as velocity and pellet weights, got some foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle for both types. Very surprising. I'm pleasantly surprised with both of the pellets and how they performed. Let's start out with the Daisy, since that's the one I shot first. So I used 15.4, and that in conjunction with shooting at 706 feet per second, that comes out to 17.05 foot-pounds of energy. 40 pumps with the 2289. That's unbelievably good. Now the heavier pellet, the H&N Silver Point, at 17.13 grain and a velocity of 666 feet per second, that comes out to 16.88 foot-pounds of energy. In this case, the lighter of the two pellets, the Daisy, is actually, with its high velocity of 706, is giving me a larger power number, 17.05 foot-pounds of energy versus 16.88. Of course, again, these are very comparable. You know, if I wanted to round off, they would both be rounded off to 17 foot-pounds of energy, but both higher than the previous. I went from RWS or Crossman Coppers with 16 foot-pounds of energy to these two, the H&N Silver Points or the Daisies, pretty much 17 foot-pounds of energy. So, very interesting, I thought. I can go with either one and get 17 foot-pounds of energy. In terms of the look of the pellet, it is a shinier lead, similar to the Crossman Premiers. As far as the Daisy pellets go, it may be a harder lead than the duller gray color of, say, the H&N Silver Points, which is probably a softer lead. And the way that it's designed, as I explained, probably trying to give a good compromise between expansion and penetration. So all four pellets that I've tested seems to have performed very well, accuracy-wise, velocity-wise. And again, big shout out, big thank you to Back in the Day for sending me these and being able to test these out. So 17 foot-pounds of energy, 40 pumps, 2289, with either the Daisy pointed 22 caliber pellets or the H&N Silver Points. Very, very cool, very high power. Obviously, I wouldn't have an issue using either one as long as they were accurate at a farther stretched out distance than I have here in my basement. And again, hopefully when the wind dies down, I could try something like this in my backyard. I've got an issue with neighbors being extremely close, though. I do have a target set up back there, so hopefully I can get to that and get some longer distance accuracy findings for any and or all of these pellets. So thanks for checking out this video. I really appreciate you guys coming by, stopping by, and checking these out. So until the next one, stay safe and shoot safe.